Morning guys, welcome back to another video. Obviously we're going to be talking about task specific for 3 certain types of tools. Kind of the way I'm thinking and the way I'm leaning towards things moving forward here. There was some interest in it. I've read pretty much all the comments on my past videos, and in the past couple I've talked about this task specific idea here, and it's not my idea, obviously. It's been around for thousands of years. So I wanted to go back over the knives that I've showed in the past video, as well as the axes. I've got a couple saws here. I've added a couple knives that I left out of the last video on purpose, and there's still yet a couple knives that I don't have here. But I think what I have and the way we'll go over this, you guys will get the idea and know kind of how I'm thinking about things. I'm going to start kind of in reverse here, start at the other end of the spectrum and go backwards from what we did last time, and kind of share with you guys why I'm leaning the way I'm leaning. Alright, so what brought this on, what spawned this whole video idea was the one. So there's lots of people in the bushcraft survival community, however it is you want to look at that have fallen into the same line of thinking with the whole one tool option. And basically what it means is you have one particular cutting tool or knife that will do everything you need it to do, anywhere from small fine carving tasks all the way up to processing firewood. So there's a lot of knives out there available today with that concept in mind. One of them happens to be the Tom Brown tracker knife. This one, they went a little more overboard than most people are doing today, but it's got the saw on the top, it's got the front portion to be used for chopping purposes. It's got a draw knife style piece of the blade right here for doing carving and all that good stuff. And there's definitely a lot of weight. So obviously they were thinking along the lines of a one tool option. With this knife you could do everything you need to do. My opinion on that is, yeah, you probably could. And again, all this really boils down to is skill level and what your personal skills are out in the woods. So in the right hands, yeah, I'm sure this knife will do everything you need it to do, and probably then some. So that's one of the blades, and again, there's many out there, and I fell into that same line of thinking when I come out with the Woodsman trapper knife. Not so big and robust as the Tom Brown tracker knife is, but it's a good sized knife. It's large enough to process firewood if you need it to. Again, in the right hands, you can get down and do fine small carving tasks. This knife, again, in the right hands, can pretty much do everything you need it to do. Skinning game, processing meat, furs, all that good stuff. But just like any one tool option, and when I say any, I mean all of them included, bar none. There's none that do all them tasks perfectly. There's not one out there that does that. So though you can get away with a knife like that, and the reason I think people fall into that and think the way they do, going back on my last video, is they tend to believe that as long as you have that one knife strapped to your hip, you'll have it, it'll be able to do everything you need it to do. So no matter what happens, you dump your canoe, you lose your kit, or whatever the case may be, you have that knife that will do all for you. Again, leaning towards the way I'm thinking now and the way I'm moving forward here is, I've been in the woods forever, just like I stated in a past video. I've been hunting and fishing since I was 5, probably, maybe even younger than that. But as far as survival and bushcraft, I've been doing this pretty much all out for the past 6 or 7 years now, whatever it's been. You know, including everything that entails, all the research that you need to do, obviously, getting out, practicing, doing all the stuff we do out here. And I have yet to lose anything. So again, I'm not down talking, you know, the thought process behind if you did, because it's not impossible, but I've been doing it so long and I've yet to lose anything. So, and I tend to carry, you know, more tools than anything else to begin with, so I can carry, you know, tools that are task specific, so to speak. Like, you know, a knife, these ones in particular here, these four, for processing meats and furs, as well as food prep, stuff like that. That's all these knives are for. Every one of them is a butcher knife, and that's their intended purpose, to process. So what appeals to me is, you know, the old way of things, to a point, you know, all the frontier days, mountain man, fur trapper era, all that good stuff, where these guys weren't out there, you know, practicing survival. They weren't out practicing bushcraft. They were out there living off the land and sustaining themselves, you know, with what they had. And yes, of course, they had, you know, horses and mules and stuff to carry certain items in for them. But if you do some research and, you know, read some books and some journals and stuff from those days, you'll see that a lot of it's the same type of thing. And the butcher knife was probably the most common knife to be had along the frontier. The French trade knife was another one that was very popular, but I think the most popular knife was the butcher knife. And they didn't use these for bushcraft and carving and making feather sticks and all that good stuff. They kept these knives razor sharp for processing fur and food. So, period. Getting away from, you know, the whole one tool option, because of the way, you know, certain people think and talk, and everybody tends to, you know, want to follow suit, and again, myself included, so don't take any of this personal, but I think a lot of that has to do with, you know, pushing products and trying to sell crap, and that's just never what I was about. So I want to get back to the old school ways of things, use what worked. It obviously still works now. I mean, we don't have thousands of deer running around this piece of woods as they did back in the days. We don't have, you know, thousands of buffalo and herds like they used to have. So, you know, meat was kind of easy for them to get back in the day. But I'm good for at least a deer a year, if not 2, 3. My best year with just a bow has been 9 deer in a season. So as long as you know what you're doing, you do your homework, just like anything else, and put the time in, you can definitely do it. So again, I'm leaning back towards, you know, kind of the old ways of things. So we talked about, you know, one tool options, the butcher knives, and you don't need to spend a whole bunch of money on these things. You can get them fairly cheap. You know, the old hickory, this one was actually free and given to me by my good friend Dave Canterbury. I think he sells these on his site. His website probably in the $20 range, somewhere thereabouts. I'm not positive on that. The Skinner from Jas Townsend I picked up. It's a carbon steel knife. Yes, mine throws sparks from a piece of flint for $34. You know, you get the BHK one. Can't remember off the top of my head what they're going for, but they're up and around the $200 range. And then my knife, I haven't quite decided on the price yet, but it's probably going to be in the same ballpark, you know, the $200 range-ish. So moving on from that, you know, what did they use back in the days for carving? Well, really, it was some sort of pocket knife, you know, a folding knife. Nesmith had one that had a double blade on it, you know, one he used for filleting fish and the other for carving, stuff like that. Today, you know, it's hard to beat a Mora knife. It just is. They're cheap, reasonable, common man, if that's what you want to call it. Absolutely razor sharp. I had several of these. This one happens to be the Triflex Bushcraft one. It is carbon steel. I've used the SL2, you know, the classic 2 I just recently picked up a high Q, and more is they're just good knives. So for carving, you know, that might be the way to go. They're cheap enough, like I said, and they're damn good at what they do. A couple other knives I have here, stainless steel, I've showed in past videos. These are skinning knives, period. Beautiful knives by my buddy Joe, and they're meant for skinning, you know, and that's what they're going to be used for. Then another one we talked about, this is a Martini actually. Still needs to be cleaned. I need to get my backfield in motion, go ahead and do some knife maintenance here soon. But you know, fillet knife, you're not going to beat this knife with any one of these for filleting fish. It's just not going to happen. This was made for that, task specific again, so it's hard to beat that. Can it be used for other things? Well, of course it can. Like I said too, my uncles and my cousins use this for, you know, skinning deer and stuff like that, cutting the meat up, the whole bit. So it does work. Does it do that as good as the butcher knife? Probably not. You know, that's where that knife shines. Again, task specific. So that's my little rant, you know, on the knife portion. I don't want to drag this video out too long for you guys and bore you to death. Alright, so moving on to saws. There's a bunch of different ones, you know. You got folding type saws. This one happens to be a Baco. It's a great saw. It's never failed me. It's done a lot for me. But to be honest, it's a lot of work if you're processing anything with that, you know, 2 to 3 inches in diameter. You know, you can carry something like a bow saw. This one's going to process larger wood and a lot faster. Again, task specific. So in a camp type setting, not that you can't pack this in, because you definitely can. I throw it in my Woodsman pack down in the back. So again, I stuff this one right down in my Woodsman pack. Takes up very little room. So there again, talking task specific, you know, this saw here is going to process a lot more wood, a lot bigger wood, that's going to keep you warmer with a fire at night than this folding saw is. However, if I'm just going out on a scout or something and I have my scout pack, the folding saw is the one. A lot more convenient, fits right in there, takes up very little room. Obviously, you know, there's a bow saw, folding saw, there's buck saws, so there's an array of different types of saws you can carry. These are the two that I do. Again, one in my scout kit, because task specific, purpose intended, small, it fits in there, it's too easy. This one can fit in my Woodsman pack for the longer stays when I go out, and that's when I tend to take the bigger pack. So this one fits right in there, processes firewood fairly easy, a lot better than this one would, and gives me bigger pieces of wood to work with, so I don't have to keep feeding the fire all night long with, you know, the little crap that you have to keep gathering and feeding all night long. Throw some bigger wood in the fire at night, you know, on them cold winter nights when you're out there, and it'll last longer for you, so you get to enjoy the heat, relax a little bit more, rather than, you know, throwing little twigs in the fire every 2 minutes. So that's knives and the saws. Let's go ahead and move on to the axes. Again, should be a short discussion. Again, like I said in the last video, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, so again, please don't take this stuff personal, guys. It's the way I think, and nothing more. Tomahawk, although it's a beautiful piece, a beautiful tool, especially this one, done by Two Hawks for Dave at the Pathfinder School. My personal opinion is, unless it's the only thing you have, it's useless. For the purpose that axes are intended for, a tomahawk to me is useless for processing firewood. You know, processing firewood wise, you're not going to process anything big enough to do you worth a damn, at least in the winter time, with a tomahawk. Does it have its place? Well, you know, of course it does, and some people swear by it. So for me, in an axe, you know, I get the 19 inch, the 24 inch, 25 inch, whatever it is, far superior, obviously, in the woods for processing wood. That's exactly what they were designed for, and you're not going to do what you can do with this with a saw. It's just not happening. Yeah, you could buck up some wood and just throw it in the fire, you know, big full pieces, and that's all fine and well. But for processing firewood, it's an axe, you know, period. The big axe, again, I tend to throw in my Woodsman pack because it fits right on the side, and it doesn't kill me to carry this, and it makes a nice, warm, relaxing night, you know, opposed to without it. Again, I can process bigger pieces of firewood, throw that stuff in the fire, and get a lot more burn time and a lot more time to keep warm and relaxed without having to throw, you know, a bunch of this little crap in there every 5 minutes. The 19-inch axe, you know, it's good too. It'll process the firewood that you need. It's just a little small, I think, for the winter time, but you can get by. Moving on to the double bit. I don't have it again out here today, but I do have the small double bit by Two Hawks, in the spirit of Nesmic, you know, that I got from the Pathfinder school. It's a cool little camp hatchet. It works. It processes wood just like it was supposed to. And I think the idea behind the double bit is, again, task specific. You've got two different grinds, two different blades to do different jobs for you. So again, back to the days of the frontier, the purpose back then of the double bit, obviously being multifunctional and serving two purposes, is one side of the blade they can use for processing the wood, you know, cutting trees, splitting logs, things of that nature, where the other side, this was more so, you know, in the movement westward, when they were cutting in the wagon trails and things like that, they could clear the wagon trails, you know, all the roots that are in that trail, you know, stumps, stuff like that, and not worry about damaging that side of the blade, you know, hitting rocks and stuff like that. They can just have at it with that portion of the double bit and then keep the other side sharp, you know, for doing the wood thing. So little ingenuity there, I guess. Again, in the small double bit from Two Hawks, in the spirit of Nesmic, Nesmic designed his hatchet that way. Again, multi-purpose, task specific. He had one blade so he could do all his woodwork with, chopping, splitting campfire wood, things like that, and yet the other blade for, you know, skinning and smaller tasks. So that's it, guys. That's my spiel on task specific tools. Again, I wanted to get that out there. Hopefully I, you know, conveyed that message on how I'm thinking about it to you guys in an understandable manner. But again, folks showed some interest in that as too. Looking forward to hearing more about it. So that's pretty much it. So I appreciate your views, your comments, all your support as always. And until the next one, take care, guys.